Okay, good afternoon. Can everybody hear me? Is there some feedback? Okay, great. Okay, my name is Bob Halpern. I'm a research affiliate at the MIT Center for Collective Intelligence, and it's great to be with you this afternoon. Our focus in this session is international policy. We have 4 winners who are with us, 2 of them virtual, 2 of them in person, or representing their teams. As we did this morning, the focus is on from ideas to action. We're really looking for each of us to be thinking about concrete suggestions that we can make to the winners, and not just suggestions, but can we help, can we volunteer, can we donate, can we make introductions, connections, do we have technical expertise that can be relevant? Any of these things are worth sharing. And I'm just going to pass out, this morning I used index cards, but now we have these little sheets. Could I ask the people in the front to maybe can you just pass one to each person? You can just help pass those down to the back. And you can use those either in their format as they are written there, in a very specific format, or you can just use them if you've got an idea that you want to share with a particular winner, and we'll make sure the idea or the suggestion or the connection, whatever, gets back to that winner. So the format this afternoon will be similar to the other session I did here this morning, but a little different maybe from what you may have done in some of the other breakouts. We'll be staying in this full group format for this session, and the format will be to go through each of the winners. Each winner will get 3 minutes to present their concept, their proposal, their contest-winning entry. We're going to do 3 minutes. We're going to try to keep it to 3.
The global plan is less about time.
I think you did one this morning. You had 5.
No, for the people in global categories, it's combined.
Okay, sure. We can do. If you need 5, it's fine. I'm not going to. That's fine. No problem.
14 lashes with a wet noodle.
No problem. We can manage. We'll be okay. So up to 5 minutes for the winners to present. And then I'll turn to our 2 experts who are with us today, and we're really privileged to have with us John Riley, who's a senior lecturer and co-director of the MIT Joint Program on the Science and Policy of Global Change. John, thank you. And Eric Meltzer. Eric, thank you so much for being with us. Former Foreign Affairs Officer in the U.S. State Department's Office of Global Change. So really great to have you with us. So I'll turn to them, ask for their feedback on the winners, then we'll open it up to the audience. We'll take a total of about 15 minutes per winner. And just for the winners who are here, I'll say we'll hear all of the comments from everybody, the experts and the audience. I'll cut that off, and then I'll turn back to the winner and give you a minute or 2 to respond, or just not that you can respond to every comment and question, but just hear some of your initial thoughts. And we may have a few minutes at the end, if I manage it all well, to have some other general feedback and closing comments. So that's the plan, and I'm just going to call on the winners in the order that they're listed in the program. So we're going to start with the virtual presentation of Delton Chen, U.S., about his Global 4C project. And this will be a video, about 3-minute video, and then he'll come on the screen, and we'll get to see him.
Global 4C mitigation is a combined market and
Can you start it again with the volume on?
what the market fund is.
We have Delton, but I just want to tell you, Manuel, that we just got a note from one of the virtual listeners that they couldn't hear the video. So hopefully they'll be able to hear Delton. This particular person had seen the video before, so they're okay. But okay, Delton, can you? Can you see me and can you hear us?
Yes, I can see and hear.
Okay, great. Welcome. Thank you for being with us. So I'd like to first, either John or Eric, would one of you be willing to comment first on this proposal?
Sure.
Okay, I'll invite you. Take the mic, and if you stand right around here, then Delton can see you.
So I was actually on the committee that chose some of the winners, so I've had a chance to look through these ahead of time, and certainly one of the I think one of the most important criteria on these is how do we get over the we don't, in principle, we don't have a problem with solving climate problem. We put a cap and trade on broadly in the world, and that would be a solution, or have a carbon tax broadly. But obviously, the world isn't doing that. So the biggest question, I think, with all of these is, what clever idea have people come up with to maybe get over the political gridlock? And so might you just comment on just why you think this would be more politically appealing than a cap and trade system globally, or how does it work differently than that?
And Delton, I'm going to ask you to hold your comments. We're going to hear from the experts on the panel and then from the audience. If you want to make some notes, we find it more efficient if you can just collect your thoughts and then respond to everything you've heard, if that's okay. Okay. So, Eric.
Hi, Delton. I just wanted to ask you why you think that 1/10 of a ton, why you use that unit for your currency, and who you think would participate in this market that's not already involved in trying to mitigate carbon emissions in some way or another.
Thank you. I chose 1/10 of a ton because of the exchange rate. We want a currency that is reasonably similar to other currencies in price. So the exchange rate will end up being around $10 US dollars to 1 4C unit in about 20 years' time. If we used 1 ton, the exchange rate would be like $100 or $200, and it's not practical as a currency. Everybody who can mitigate will be incentivized to earn the currency. This is important because we then capture all of their data, and the currency can influence the global marketplace. The concept is that it becomes an international price signal. Currencies are excellent for that because everybody in the world uses the Forex exchange. The rules for Global 4C provide payments to every kind of mitigation: energy sector, industrial decarbonisation, and land use management, including biosequestration. So we have rules to pay everybody in any kind of mitigation as long as it's lawful in the nation that it's occurring. There was a previous question about why is this better than carbon taxes, or why does it move things? I believe that carbon taxes are absolutely necessary. However, they do not appeal to the self-interest of actors in the global economy. So a reward system that's globalized, it appeals to everybody's self-interest. By getting humanity to begin a global program will begin the social transformation. So the process is iterative or gradual. We can't have overnight success with carbon taxes. It needs its complementary opposite, which is subsidies and rewards. Over time, as people earn more and more, as I shown there is a bull market, people in businesses, even in Exxon, for example, will begin to see there's an alternative, and this will change attitudes. So we must think in terms of a genuine social transformation with a system that gains its own momentum. The key here to understand is that we need a new system in civilization. That is, an economic system integrated to the social system, the political system, and directly coupled to the environment. The unit of account of 4C is directly coupled to the environment. Does that answer the question?
Okay, thank you. Let's see if there are any comments, questions from the audience. Reactions, perspectives, suggestions, connections from the audience. Yes, please, if you could come up so we can, and here's the microphone.
Please speak slowly.
Okay.
Hi, Jackson. I'm a fellow Australian over here in Boston for the day. Davina Jackson is my name, and I'm a journalist who's been funded to some degree by the number of Australian research organisations to investigate the future of urban development. And I've wound up after a period of time and trial and error with a thing called the Global Earth Observation System of Systems. What you've got is a system that could be part of the system of systems, I suspect. It's certainly worth testing, and I'd love to help you. So I've got writing, editing skills, a pretty amazing network now globally that is focused on this system of systems. So I'm offering to be in touch. I'm in Sydney, you're in Queensland. And there are other editors of our manifesto for this system of systems, so we'll certainly be interested in promoting you in future editions of this manifesto. I'll be in touch.
That's terrific. Thank you. Thank you. Other comments and offers of assistance? Taking this idea, and that actually just suggested such a range of possibilities of how people can use the system, editorial, as well as some of the other things that I mentioned previously. Yes, please come up, Donna.
Just a quick comment. I really like the name of it, 4C. It sounds almost like a foreign word, 4C, like a Indian word, but it's just 4C. Anyway, I just like the name of it.
So I'm sure Delta is looking for branding assistance. So, you have it copyrighted already, your trademarks, I hope. Okay, other comments? Okay, well, please. I'm asking people to come up just because then Delton can see you and people can hear you.
My name is Bonnie Widows. I'm a Boston resident. I just was wondering what starts this, what do you have to do to get it started?
The strategy I believe is most effective is to find a sponsor and partner to do the economic modelling. This is a global model of the currency systems and to simulate the mitigation and effect on the climate. This will tell us the price we need for the currency. We would then produce a professional report with a survey of experts in different disciplines. We'd hope then to submit this report to the World Bank or some other institution of a high caliber. The idea then is the narrative on climate change and economics would have to respond to the new ideas. And given that climate change mitigation will not be enough as a result of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, I think the expectation is the Paris meeting will not deliver strong mitigation. So political leaders and economists will need an alternative. And I think Global 4C provides a political pathway as well as economic rationality. The key here is the social transformation through the system of systems, as the other speaker mentioned, is where we get the exponential transformation through an intelligent social network that also delivers the money. Because ultimately, it's all about finance.
Thank you, Delton. Let's have a round of applause for And if we have time, we'll bring you back on screen at the end. But I want to make sure that every winner has their chance to present and to hear your feedback. So the next one is going to be in person. This is the Carbon-Free Fast, Dennis Peterson. Please, and here's.
All right, so this is for the global plan, which combines a lot of different approaches from other contests. So I'm going to touch on 3 parts of it. To start with, the world is building or planning 1,200 new coal plants. We really can't afford to run all of those until end of life. So how do we get them shut down early? And I think the Achilles heel for coal is the cost of fuel, which is about 3 cents per kilowatt hour. So one approach would be to invent some kind of breakthrough energy source that costs less than the cost of fuel for coal. And one possibility is actually fusion. We heard about a couple of projects this morning that are working on that. And there are others. Fusion has advanced exponentially since about 1970. We're not that far off. There are several innovative small companies that are working on it that could commercialize within 10 years or so. The organization I'm with actually crowdfunded one of those, raised $200,000 on Indiegogo for one of the experiments. But suppose that doesn't work out. The other obvious option is a price on emissions. Well, we've been trying to do that for a long time too. What can we do differently? Well, there's this whole other group of people working on a whole different problem, which is technological unemployment. The CEO of Google said the other day, the computers are coming for your jobs and there's nothing you can do to stop. So we can have a future where most of us are desperately poor, or we can have a future that's a utopia for all of us because the machines are doing all the work. So how do we have that second future? And what people talk about is basic income, where everybody gets a fixed amount of money from the government to cover their basic living expenses. And even some conservatives like this idea because it's a lot less intrusive and less bureaucratic than our welfare system. Well, that money has to come from someplace, so why not a carbon fee? And it would be kind of a rebranded fee and dividend, where instead of talking about the cost and the fee and the tax, it's the carbon income. Because most countries, every country that works on a benefit for their citizens doesn't ask for an international agreement first. They say, we need this Medicare or Social Security system, so let's just build it for our own sake. So we can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone this way. And we don't really need an international agreement if we focus on that side of it. All right, so I'm in the US. It's going to be still a long time before Congress does anything like this. So what can we do right now? Well, we have technology now that lets anybody invent a new economic system without asking for anybody's permission, and that's cryptocurrency. So I think it's possible to actually create a cryptocurrency that rewards people for offsetting carbon. And what we would do is partner with some of the organizations that do this and make it so anybody who offsets carbon is rewarded with duly minted cryptocurrency, and it would actually have value. And so things I hope to do are talk to some of those people, and also for the carbon income part, to build a website which lets anybody look at their emissions compared to a fee and find out how they would come out financially. Most people would actually come out ahead, and I don't think many people actually realize that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. John, Eric?
So this is one of my favorite ones, and it's a good old carbon tax, dressed up with the idea that income, would focus on the income and supporting people. In fact, what we've done is very consistent with your story that, 60 or 80% of people would come out ahead on this rather than behind by the time we get done. I guess the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency sort of thing is a mystery to me. I guess it exists and it has value, but maybe you could explain to me in simple ways, how that works. That you kind of create this currency and it has value that actually doesn't go away, or I guess to create a lot of it that its value goes down, or how that works. So I'd be interested in a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a little bit more. You sort of an amalgam of a lot of very misunderstood or unpopular things, and I guess if you combine them all, maybe it will just go down as one delicious carbon-based hill. But I want to know how you would verify that people had actually reduced emissions. This was a huge deal in the aftermath of the Kyoto Agreement. How do you make sure someone has actually abated emissions, or you don't want something like happened in China where people were creating HFCs just to destroy them, and just doing carbon laundering. And then my other question was sort of carbon welfare program. Tell me who would support that, and how would you get over the political obstacles to that?
Thank you. Other comments, questions, observations, offers of assistance, suggestions, connections? And then I'll invite Dennis to come and respond to the challenges that have already been put forward.
There's been a lot of volatility in the cryptocurrency markets, and quite a zigzag value. So I think that's an issue that you might want to be able to address. Is how would you ensure that the value of these offset, the value of the cryptocurrency wouldn't be overly volatile?
I guess another question I would ask is related to the two microphones. Related to kind of how you get started and how do you take the first steps, and because this is such a grand kind of solution, as Eric was saying, are there ways to chunk it and to see the phases and stages of this kind of an approach? Please, Derek, can you come up? So that you on the camera. Okay.
I was just going to offer a very small thing that for those of you who don't know about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, I have colleagues at UC Irvine who offer an online course on that subject. And if you go to the website for the Donald Grant School of Information and Computer Science, you can find links to when that online course will be offered.
Great, thank you. Yes, please.
Kathy Buck with Climate Reality. I'm just not sure how it works. For example, I took the TV, and in the future, when this system's in place, am I going to still get credit for that, or am I going to have to do something more than that? I just don't know how that,
For which part of it?
Well, I guess the whole thing. I just don't understand how it works. But I think it's what you want.
Okay, I saw. Yes, please.
I was wondering if how much risk this system contains to be gamed, to be played with and manipulated in a way that would really disrupt things and make it difficult to work.
So you're asking specifically about the carbon income or the crypto or both?
I don't understand the crypto part, but so it has to do with the carbon. The carbon part. No, the income. Carbon income. Okay, thanks.
Did I see another? Please.
Hi.
I've never heard this before now, so maybe I'm off base, but what about the $21 trillion of carbon-based assets that exist today?
You mean in the ground? You're talking about the reserves?
No, like held by the pension funds, like all our savings. And Al Gore mentioned this last Friday in New York. He said there's $21 trillion of carbon-based assets that are not worth $21 trillion, that are the next subprime coming. So I thought it was interesting, given that I don't really know what you're coming from, but how do you handle that? Because that's a lot of money.
Yeah, so that's an issue that came up this morning when we talked about divestiture. Please.
The fundamental issue I'm having here is without Congress, without a legislature, how do you enforce collection of fees? Where does the revenue come from? Is it entirely voluntary? And if it's entirely voluntary, who's going to contribute to this in order to pay these incomes?
Thank you. Okay, so Dennis, if you'd like to come back up, you have just a few minutes. Then, Daniel Byrne, of the great architect in Chicago, said, "Make no small plans." So please come. There's a lot of challenges, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the issues that you raised.
Okay, so on currency, in the early days of Bitcoin, the first couple of years, everybody said, why would this even have any value? And the way it's worked out is, if you have a currency that rewards the early adopters, that gives them the most rewards, then you end up with a lot of speculators who just start using it in the hopes of profit. And ultimately, as people start using the currency, it's sort of backed by everybody to buy things with it. Everybody, all the products that you can buy with it, it sort of becomes the backing of the currency. And Bitcoin right now has about a $5 billion market cap, and it's been somewhat volatile, but it actually depends on that volatility because you're starting with something that has no value. So you have to have that extreme deflation to bring people on board in the early days when it has no value. And along with that, it's going to have some volatility as speculators jump in and out. So the hope is that ultimately it's going to stabilize at some level. As far as how do you verify on the voluntary side of it that people aren't gaming the system? And right now, on the voluntary carbon offsets, people are trying to address that as much as they can. And there's kind of some certifications that people are doing and trying to avoid that kind of gaming. Personally, I think the best things are things that are like do a positive step to take carbon out of the atmosphere. You're either pulling carbon out or you're not. It's not something where I'm pretending I would build a coal plant, but I'm going to build these windmills instead. That's easy to gain. But if you say, I pulled 100 tons of carbon out of the air, then that's more verifiable. As far as the carbon income, that would have to be something that would be a government thing. Congress is probably not going to do it very soon. Switzerland right now has a pretty large mass movement trying to get basic income tax. So, different countries would probably go at different rates. The idea here is that it doesn't have to be every country at once. It can be those that are more amenable to it first, and they can set up an example for the rest. I'm not sure. What else do we have? Who did I miss?
The $21 trillion thing?
Oh, yeah, I don't think, we have to, I think we just have to eat that. I mean, if we can't, we can't really, we have this value based on burning all the fossil fuels that we can get our hands on. And we can either do that and maintain that value, or we can not do that and lose that value, and it's going to be a huge disruption, but I don't see any way around it.
Which suggests why there may be some political forces.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we need to move from the people who say, boy, I want this carbon income, and we need things that don't rely on the political system, like cryptocurrency, or inventing a technology that just makes them obsolete.
Thank you very much. Let's have a round of applause. So our our next winner is Jan Akunis from Finland. We have a video. We have him available, or describe him. Why don't you just, okay, you can start it now. But okay, so we're going to show the video from Jan. The theme or the topic of his winning proposal: settle the carbon debt and release the power of example.
There were two main reasons for the failure of the climate negotiations in Copenhagen 2009 and subsequent climate conference. First, the question of historical responsibility, the carbon debt of developed countries. Second, a wait and see what others do attitude. I suggest how to overcome both of these obstacles. Developing countries are pointing to the main reason for a warming climate: historical greenhouse gas emissions of developed countries. The middle range damage cost for the carbon dioxide emissions, the cumulative cost for the emissions of the United States or the European Union alone would equal the total external debt of developing countries. Settling this carbon debt would take away excuses for developing countries not to participate in a climate treaty. Considering this mutual debt, I suggest that developing countries joining a global climate treaty should get their debt cancelled. One of the main reasons for the current stalemate in the climate negotiations is a wait and see what others do attitude. The viewpoint that individual persons or countries can't make anything alone is fatal, faulty, and futile modesty. If anything can be learned from history, that is the power of example. The international agreement on the reduction of emissions of sulfur dioxide, signed in 1985, originated from the example and initiative of Sweden. A similar example can be found from the declining emissions of ozone-depleting substances, where the United States took the lead without waiting for actions by the European Community. Thus it managed, by its own example, to overcome the skepticism of the EC, which eventually followed example. In a similar way, also actions by individual citizens can unleash the power of example. First, engaging their neighbors, then their own community, their town, and finally their own country. Taking the power of example to an international level. Unilateral measures to curb climate change could provide an example for later comers to follow. The eagerness will increase when they realize the competitive advantage the necessary clean energy revolution will bring. The eagerness of fellow citizens will increase when they realize the energy savings, improved air quality, and other core benefits their neighbors resist. Thank you.
Is there a second one here? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. From my proposal, I hope that you embrace the message that everyone can make a difference by showing example. Today, I would like to focus on the issue of a debt swap, developed countries' carbon debt versus developing countries' conventional monetary debt. I would like to hear your suggestions on how to get debt cancellation on the table at the Paris 2015 climate conference, and how we can induce individual banks and countries to announce that they will unilaterally cancel outstanding debts of developing countries joining a global climate treaty.
Great. So do we have Jan on the line or on the phone?
Yes, we try to call him right now. Have the speakers.
Okay.
The best we can do now.
We'll see if this works. So
high tech. Very high tech there.
Connecting.
Okay. So, do people need to speak into the phone, or
yes?
Yes.
Okay. If we reach him. Hello, Jan. Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Great.
Oh, that's pretty good. Okay. Okay. So, John, Eric, would you anything to add beyond what you may have said in some of the previous stuff?
Well, I think this was certainly intriguing. I think it gets at Well, we'll have to help.
Yes, stand up. Mike, only for the people in the room and
This was certainly intriguing, and I think it showed, you know, it obviously was based on one of the fundamental disagreements that are plaguing things in the world, the developing country, developed country sort of thing. So I think that was a good aspect of this. I guess the question you addressed at the very end, it is kind of seeming to kind of focus on the country element, but most of the debt that developing countries actually have with our private banks. And so I guess the question is, are we going to convince them to forgive the debt? And then that's a little bit like the 21 trillion of assets that people own. There are investors in those banks who are going to kind of lose out on that money. So do you have a kind of answer to that?
So yes, so we could ask Jan to kind of hold his responses, and then we'll come back. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Jan, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. Yeah. So if you can go, we need people to stand over here.
Yes.
Hi, Jan.
Actually, speak at the microphone.
Okay, talk to the microphone and talk to the phone.
Turn the microphone off.
I think the microphone helps the people in the room. It helps the people in the room.
So, Jan, I was part of the U.S. team at Copenhagen, so when you say it was a failure, it hurts me. I understand that that is the consensus. I just want to say, I want to echo what John said. I think it's the toughest thing is that the negotiators represent constituents, and the banks have shareholders. So how are you going to get the shareholders on board? Because you're not just talking to the United States as an abstract entity, you're talking to the representatives of the United States who have to agree to something that 2/3 of the US Senate would agree to. And when you're talking about swapping carbon debt, I like the idea of swapping national debt for carbon debt. How will you convince citizens of the rich countries and shareholders of the rich countries' banks to accept this plan?
So, Jan, why don't we let you respond to these first points from John and Eric, and then we'll take some other comments.
Yeah. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Great.
All right. First, I will point out. So it's not. It's absolutely clear. I'm not suggesting a debt forgiveness. It's a debt settlement because there are debts on both sides. How? That's the question. Yes. I don't know. That I'm hoping that all the wise persons present there would suggest. My first thought is that if we look at the real value of these developing countries, that there are how much of that money we can possibly get back in anyway. So the real value for the banks, for countries of the developing countries, that is not that big. The big problem would be voucher funds. What to do with the voucher funds? And again, I'm hoping that individual countries and individual banks will also see the benefits of giving up these more or less worthless loans.
Do we still have them?
I hope so. It says on hold. No. Let's call it now.
Where is he?
Oh no.
In Sweden?
He's in Netherlands.
Netherlands.
Very bad internet connection. Jan?
Jan is gone. Jan is gone.
Jan? Can you hear us? Let's recall.
we can come back to him if necessary. He's there.
Dan, can you hear us?
Yes.
Great. Sorry. Perfect.
Okay, if you can here, continue.
Jan, could you continue?
Yeah.
Back online.
Another, we can take another minute or two, then we have to move on.
Do you understand that?
Yes?
That's more or less everything I want to say, I just possess of that. I just hope as the second part of my proposal says that power of example is our way out. And we need single countries, single banks to first forget this debt or announcing that if the developing countries joining climate treaty, they will get settled.
Thank you.
That's really the only thing I have to say at the moment.
So I can see maybe at the end some very interesting interchange between the different proposals here and getting the different parties together and thinking about this, because each of these proposals has elements of systemic challenge that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I probably have to show some.
Okay. On that note, let's bring him. If you want to dial him back and tell him if he wants to just stay on the line, I'm going to move on to the final winner, snow caps, the People's Cap and Trade. James D'Angelo. Is James here? Okay, great. And here's the microphone. I can hold it up if you need to.
I'll probably get it.
Or you can put your computer down.
I'll try. I'm the last speaker today, so thanks for sticking around. I really liked what Dennis said earlier, which was computers are coming for your job. There's something very apropos to what I'm up to. On December 16th of 2003, after years of deliberation, U.S. Congress finally passed legislation to control spam. But that same year, software solutions had already begun to make those controls completely unnecessary. In fact, most of your spam right now is controlled by the company itself. They know who you deal with, they know who you relate with, and now I get less spam in my email than I get in real mailbox. And so I just got lots of mail this week, especially for voting, right? But few people realize how big a watershed moment this is. You know, you go online, you look at sort of regulation by reputation, regulation by algorithm. You're not going to find much, but we're in the middle of this, okay? And we've launched a new era where coded social networks based off algorithms are revolutionizing the way the world cooperates. And so we see this every day, right? We make hundreds of thousands of transactions with eBay, Amazon, where if you have a problem and you complain to them and they have a reputation, oh, hey, what do you need? You need a new one? Send it right back. Yeah, get back to you right away, right? They're very quick on eBay and Amazon. But lately, this has taken, since 2009, we've seen it really go to another level. Airbnb, which I run, perfect strangers walk into my house, stay in an unlocked door and sleep at night. Do I look like the type of guy you want to sleep next to? Right? You get out of an airport, women, men, any age will get inside a car, an Uber. This is not controlled. You don't have the policeman sitting in the car. You don't have the policeman sitting at the front door. This is regulation by reputation. So we scroll down. My memory's horrible. All right. So this isn't Congress regulating this. This is not Congress giving the stamp of approval. Software has created the guide. Software that's improving every year. So you get less spam every year. You get more security every year. And what's interesting is some of them are now combining them. So I sent this violinist who was coming to my house. She didn't know who I was. And I sent her my Airbnb, my Facebook, and something else. She's like, oh, that's great. Come right over, right? So as such, the biggest elephant in the room when you look at controlling carbon, the one that people really are afraid of, is Congress, right? Congress may or may not do something. But every national proposal, internationally proposed, means we have to go through Congress. We have to wait for Senate. What if we could set up a system that relies on regulation? Okay, Congress makes a cap and trade. Do they actually give carbon to individual companies? You can now trade this carbon. They deed it, just like you have a deed for your house. A little piece of paper that says you own this. Okay, you own this carbon, you can trade it. So our idea is to use a reputation. I didn't even get my slide, did I? They said I could only have one image.
Well, that's the slide we have for you.
All right, well, it was a really beautiful slide. Maybe I can bring it up here.
Oh, maybe this one.
Do I get an extra 10? Oh, there we go.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
great. All right. I think you can actually close this for a second. You were supposed to be watching it. So here's this new style of regulation, right? And here's old man Congress carrying his Barnes & Noble bag, right? He's, you know. I'm not saying that we're going to replace Congress, but we are taking in a lion's share of things that regulation used to take care of, right? And then people have talked about Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin for me isn't a currency at all. It's actually a public ledger. And I speak internationally about Bitcoin. It's something I study. I went to graduate school here at MIT, worked for NASA. I love technology. The thing Bitcoin does that it's done flawlessly, without volatility for 5 years, is accounting. Public accounting. It's called a public ledger. Okay, so there's been no volatility inside of Bitcoin. If you have one Bitcoin today, you have one Bitcoin tomorrow. You can use this for share-based systems. Okay, so we can install a carbon share-based system where we actually open a site tomorrow, for the cost of an SUV, launch an international global cap and trade, where every person who signs on immediately gets 5 shares. 10 shares, whatever it is, but equal shares. So I know when you were dealing with fairness and all the things, you know, it's like, Kyoto, how do we deal with fairness? Well, fairness is pretty, it's a big issue. It's a big issue you guys deal with. If we can give equal shares to every person on Earth, we have an arguably fair system. These shares can then be traded to companies. Clearly, at the beginning, price is 0. Whole Foods might come in and say, wow, we want to support your system. Start buying some shares. Hopefully, we get true price discovery. If you get true price discovery, you get a real price on carbon. Okay? One more minute. Wow. All right, here we go. This is as simple, really, as it needs to. I mean, this is as complex as it needs to be, right? You get your share, boop, you get a little message. Whole Foods is interested in leasing your share for a few months. Do you want it or not? They give you a price, you say no, yes. There'll be a market of people, and you can see it because Bitcoin's a global public ledger. The one thing you can do that you've never done with any currency in your life is you can see every transaction that ever happened today, every second as it's coming. Then you have the rating system built right in, all runs autonomously. The social network cap and trade, no government required. I launch it, I don't even make a penny off of it. So this little marriage is kind of the future. These are two 2009 technologies. Well, 2009 is a little bit older, but we see the new regulation by repetition.
Well, I'll take I'm not sure what to say. Other than thank God we have a solution. We don't need Eric anymore. We stop wasting the time on the internet. We got the private solution here. Yes, so, we certainly have these, voluntary credit markets that are already existing, whether they're using that technology or something. I know the Chicago Exchange started these voluntary credits. So there is a certain, there is enough, there are some people who will voluntarily buy these credits, and not that many. So
Use the microphone.
there are some people who will buy these voluntary credits, not that many. So can you really expect this to solve the problem if the purchase of credits is just on a voluntary basis?
Yeah.
I have to say, I love this idea. I thought this was great, and the more you can put the negotiators and Congress out of this, especially now. The better the solution is. I think this appeals to millennials, and it appeals to taking responsibility. I think my only question is, what if adoption is, I think it's John's question, what if adoption is less than you think? Are you planning on getting, how are you going to regulate the ledger? Where's the ledger going to sit? I think Bitcoin works because the people who use it trust it enough to use it, and the people who don't are too scared, and that's what's preventing Bitcoin's growth. So who's going to foster trust in this system?
Other comments and questions or suggestions, so please come up.
You must know.
I guess I'm not.
Your microphone.
To hold the.
So I guess I'm not completely sure about how the logistics work. So anybody who signs up gets a certain amount of shares, and you can lease those shares to companies. Now, is the idea that you lease those shares to companies that are being responsible about their carbon emissions, or and then what do the companies get out of it?
I have one in the same vein. I mean, when you talk about the reputation, whose reputation? I mean, it's not the individual's reputation. I presume that there's some sort of a, climate change Yelp somewhere equivalent where ExxonMobil maybe has a lower number of stars than Whole Foods. But if you could say a little bit more about that, that would be helpful.
Please.
And the name is Snowcaps. I was wondering why it was called Snowcaps.
Thank you.
I love Snowcaps.
Okay, let you get a chance to respond.
Well, I'll start with yours first. Ladies first, guys. Snowcaps, just because I was able to get snowcaps.org. There's hardly they're on there right now. But I wanted the ice caps to stay snowy, right? So, something there. And this is cap in the train. All right.
It's a stretch, but it's okay.
I know. But try to find a name that's short that you can actually get a website for. So they all hit kind of at this really important question. I think it is the essential question, which is why would people adopt? Who's going to get involved? Why would you get involved, right? Well, think about the marketing. Think about, let's just take one company, for example, a Whole Foods or somebody who wants to compete with Whole Foods. You walk in today and you see lots of little emblems. We bought this coffee in Kenya. We have that little seal to show you. What if you could actually show that you actually did something on a public ledger where everyone can believe you, right? When I walk into Whole Foods, they tell me they bought that in Kenya. I'm like, I don't know. So there's an advertising element for them, right? This public ledger, which runs continuously. And you said, who's going to control it? Well, Bitcoin's decentralized. There's 100,000 different computers, each with the ledger. Any mistake on any of those computers, that computer gets kicked off. So it's really beautifully done where it's run by everybody, and any mistake is kicked out. So that's why it works decentralized. So Whole Foods has a real incentive now, or a real feedback loop that they can do. They can actually show you for the first time they're environmental. We've bought these shares. You can see them right here on the market. Whole Foods doesn't want to do it. How many people really want to buy shares? No one. But the advertising ability, if you're competing with Whole Foods, you can suddenly show proof that you did something environmental, right? It's really, really hard. It's actually this real dilemma for companies to try and show these things. So Whole Foods may come in early and say, okay, we'll give 2 cents a share. It's not much, but you suddenly have a price point. Now you have incentives for users to come on and start joining the system. Now, you might not need 2 cents, but someone else might need 2 cents, or someone else might just want to be involved in the system. So this is how these things begin. Bitcoin didn't start with a price. It had no price, right? The US dollar had a really funny beginning of real volatility. Oil had massive volatility at the beginning. The beginning of anything is ugly, terrible, high possibility of failure. But again, we can launch this cap and trade internationally tomorrow for the price of an SUV. That's...
Let's have a round of applause. 10 minutes before we have to finish, and as you think about this topic that's been dealt with here, and you think about what's covered in the other sessions, we've got a session tomorrow morning where some breakouts around community-based activities. We have a session this morning around business. This afternoon we're dealing with policy change, and this particular breakout is dealing with international, which seems like the most complex and challenging and intractable and difficult. And it reminds me of a bumper sticker that I saw in Berkeley, California recently. The bumper sticker said, "Subvert the dominant paradigm." Okay? Subvert the dominant paradigm. And it feels like this session is about how do we subvert the dominant paradigm, because it's the only way perhaps to get some of these sorts of things done. So I want to turn back to our experts first and see if you have other comments, thoughts to share on this big policy, international, what's the source of hope, of inspiration, of possibility?
I was going to say something until you said you wanted a source of hope. Well, I think this is a really, really hard problem. I think we had some very creative suggestions, things to do. Obviously, I think they need more work. They need some more work, and there's some more thought to go in it. So if you are turned on by any of these, get together with the folks and see if we can make some of these work. I guess, I've been studying this problem for 30 years, I think, and so I've seen lots of ideas come and go. If there was a really good one, probably would have done it already. I guess I joked earlier that maybe we don't need Erica anymore after we saw that last one. I don't think we want to fire him yet or get rid of the State Department. We probably just, we might want to get rid of Congress, but that's another problem. This energy that people brought to it, I think, is really great, and we have to keep kind of pushing at these things because if there was really an easy solution, it had been done already. So it's obviously a tough problem.
Thank you.
So I'm notice the former. So I'm at MIT now. So if any of you want to talk to me about my former life or about anything, I can talk about everything. Nothing is secret. Well, stuff I did there is, but I can talk about the process. I'm Maltzer at MIT. It's my last name at MIT.edu. So feel free to email me if you like. I just want to say two things. First of all. These solutions are amazing. I love the solutions that crowdsource the energy and the enthusiasm of people who really, really want to get involved, and especially people who want to put their money where their values are. That's really important. And the more you can do that, the more effective the solution is going to be. The second thing I would say is when you're thinking of other solutions, try not to go against the dominant power structure as much as you can, because it is really, really powerful, and it will squelch any idea that goes straight up against entrenched interests can be strangled to death in so many ways in the bureaucracy.
So you have to go around.
You have to go around. I like to subvert. Subvert is a good word, but do not go head on, because you will lose. Someone asked me to talk a little bit about Paris, what's going to happen next. About this time next year. Todd Stern gave a talk at Yale. It's very dry and hard to get through, as most of his talks are. But it's online. If you Google Todd Stern Yale climate speech, I'm sure it'll come up. He basically laid out what the U.S. position is going to be in Paris. It's not terribly ambitious, but it's completely achievable. That's what the office has done, the entire Obama administration. So if you want to talk about how ambition can be furthered or how we can really push the agenda forward, start first with ideas that crowdsource enthusiasm. And if you want to talk about Paris, if you want to talk about what's going to happen at the international policy level, send me an email. Have a good time.
We have a few minutes if others would like to share their perspectives, thoughts, please. Can you come up?
Sure.
Because I think we still have the camera going. Yes. And Jonathan, I didn't know, just arrived late, was a member of the team with Delta.
Right.
Thank you for joining us.
Our apologies, we just drove from New Jersey through the rain and traffic and everything here to get here, but I can see that Delta pretty much answered most of the questions. We walked in right at the end. But if there are folks who are interested in talking with us a little bit more about how this system might work and how we came to be involved in the whole proposal and where it's going from here, I'd be happy to talk with you at any point after the session. So
Global 4C.
Global 4Cs.
Yeah, and please, Victoria, could you please stand up also? So Victoria and Jonathan are here also from 4C. When Delton wasn't able to be here, but please note that they're here. Will you be here for the rest of the conference?
We will.
Great, so please seek them out and connect with them. Other thoughts, questions, suggestions, concerns, challenges?
They don't solve it.
Solutions.
Can I make a statement? This is Dalton.
And who wants to donate their SUV?
Fair enough. We're looking for donated
Use
SUVs.
Or Tesla.
I'm not a tire off a Tesla.
Do we still have Delton or Jonathan? Is not Jonathan, I mean, Jan? He's not on the phone, is he?
No.
Delton
is.
Delton, have you been able to hear what's been going on? Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I would just like to say that Snowcaps is the social network that we envisage as well, but we're not using cap and trade. It's subsidies and rewards for mitigation. So if that speaker would think about that idea for us, we'd love to work with him, because what he's doing is exactly what we want as well.
Great, thank you. James has taken note of that.
Thank you.
I said awesome. He said awesome. Great. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. And, please connect with the winners. Please, these sheets, you can turn them in up here. We'll make sure they get to the winners. Or you can go online and submit your ideas, your connections, your areas of support. We'll be joining the main program in Kresge Auditorium at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. Thank you very much.